Welcome. We're in the sixth habit, I think the ninth week of going through the 7 habits of highly effective people. And I continue to say that I've been shocked how engaged I've been in this book. And as I've been reading some other books, how I keep relating things back to here. I mean, I just got finished reading Atomic Habits by a man named James Clear, and a great book, incredible exercises. You can look up James Clear Atomic Habits and find an enormous amount of free materials that he gives away. I like here in this habit 6, Synergize, it starts off with principles of creative cooperation. And he starts the chapter with Churchill when he was called to head up the war effort for Britain. He remarked that all his life had prepared him for this hour. In a similar sense, this is the author now saying, in a similar sense, the exercise of all the other habits prepares us for the habit of synergy. When properly understood, synergy is the highest activity in all life, the true test and manifestation of all the other habits put together. The highest forms of synergy focus the 4 unique human endowments: the motive of win-win, the skills of empathetic communication on the toughest challenges we face in life. What results is almost miraculous. We create new alternatives, something that wasn't there before. It's pretty, I don't know, I find that a little bit profound.
What's synergy? Coalescing everything together?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. Okay, say that again.
What is synergy? Coalescing everything together? Bringing all the habits into one?
Simply define, it means that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
The whole is greater than the sum.
Yep, what you just said.
Coalescing everything together.
It means that the relationship that the parts have to each other is a part in and of itself. It is not only a part, but the most catalytic, the most empowering, the most unifying, and the most exciting part. So it's interesting how he's bringing together here synergy in the creative process. The creative process is also the most terrifying part because you don't know exactly what's going to happen or where it is going to lead. You don't know what new dangers and challenges you'll find. It takes an enormous amount of internal security to begin with the spirit of adventure, the spirit of discovery, and the spirit of creativity. I had a situation this morning where, dealing with an employee, one of my loan officers, salespeople, that keeps operating out there. He doesn't participate much in our team meetings we have per week. Matter of fact, not much. He's never been on one of them, and just kind of doing his own thing. And some of that's okay, some of it's not. What is an attorney says that, Beth, you got 2 attorneys in your family. They've been trained to never ask a question you don't know the answer to.
Right.
And so I was headed down a path with him this morning, and he got really upset with me. And I was trying to be creative in the process of understanding where he was coming from, and wasn't creating real good synergy in a way. I just, he got pretty upset with me. As I went through a discovery process, trying to understand why he had the attitude he had. And he got really upset with me and thought I was being unreasonable. But I don't know, maybe I've got that heavy on my mind, but I'm lacking that here to the synergy that he continues to create isn't real positive.
So what do you do? How do you fix that?
I think it's something that I don't think you do fix it. I work under under a premise that you lead people and you manage processes. And when you have to start managing people, it's a slippery slope. It doesn't normally lead well or end well. By processes, I mean checklist, even training. Training comes up underneath management. He had not received some training for something new that he was doing, and he was creating extra work for people on the team. We have 17 people on our team that I lead, and then we regularly deal with about another 15 on a weekly basis so leading is you can lead around, you can lead up, you lead down from a 360 degree standpoint. And so when I'm dealing with another manager in the company that doesn't report to me, then that's what I call leading across. I got a couple of people that I report up to leading up. And part of that just being there's a book called being a courageous follower that I have learned that helps me through that process. But when sometimes there's tough love, and that's what it's coming down to with this guy. He doesn't want to participate. He'll disappear for days at a time, and then he's all in, and everybody's supposed to you know how it is. And it just so anyway, he says, without doubt, you have to leave the comfort zone of base camp and confront entirely new and unknown wilderness. You become a trailblazer, a pathfinder. You open new possibilities, new territories, new continents, so that others can follow. And that's after he said, you don't know what new challenges and dangers you'll find as you go through the creative process. He goes through this, later. But I look at the creative process. I agree. I like what he says. I agree with what he says. If I didn't agree, I would have to consider what he says because of who the author is and what he went through to get to the point where he wrote this book. But is that, because we have these social, mental, as he calls them, emotional differences, and we need to value those differences with each other. Deal with the event as things happen and not the people. And he says, could these differences not also be sources for creating new and exciting forms, creating an environment that is truly fulfilling for each person, that nurtures the self-esteem and self-worth of each, and creates opportunities for each to mature into independence and then gradually into interdependence. Go back into the first three habits was independence. And then these next three habits, 4, 5, and 6, are the interdependence. The independent or private victories that we get. So I'm repeating myself here a little bit, but we've talked about this before. But the first three habits are private victory, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. Those are the independent things that you create. When you create those, then you can create a better public or interdependent victory. It's, I've gone back, this thing this morning, I'm sitting there talking to him, asking him questions. I'm thinking about what my intent is, where I'm trying to get to with him, and just kind of reached the end of where end of the road. I'm close to the end of the road. That the end in mind is that we want a cohesive team. You mentioned fixing. Darren Hardy tells a story about a hotel in California he loved going to, and it was a smaller hotel, only had about 50, 60 rooms. It was he just loved the place. He'd make a reservation, go there once or twice a year, might be gone for 2 or 3 years. And when he showed back up, they came out, said, "Welcome, Mr. Hardy." The guy parking his car, people at the front door, throughout the hotel, just the nicest people in the world. Mm-hmm. And he said, finally, after about 3 or 4 of these trips, and he had asked to speak to the manager, and there's always an assistant manager there. Turned out the manager was also the owner, and he's normally there, but happened to not be there when he asked for him. So even the lady, cleaning the rooms in the mornings knew his name and was nice to him, recognized him. And he asked the owner one time, finally, he says, "How do you train the attitude in these people?" And the man went, "Pardon me?" He said, "How do you train these people to be so nice?" And he said, "I don't." He said, "But they're so nice." And he says, "No, I don't train them. I hire nice people." Yeah. And Darren goes, "Damn, I've been doing it wrong all these years." Yeah. And I think that's, I heard him say that last year, and it changes things when you're hiring nice people. I look at people on my team. I'm thinking about that right now. And the nice ones, we are so creative together, coming up with new ways to service our clients, to show value in the training that we do. That a big part of our marketing is the training that we do. So anyway,
and people love hearing their names. That's a big thing too. Anytime there's someone with a name tag on, I always look the name tag, and then I say something to them. "Hey, Frank," and then I might ask them a question. But people love when you use their name or you hear your name. You always surprise,
back during anyway, I was at my doctor about a month ago, and I just started using this doctor recently, and he's one of those kind of what do they call one of the doctors, you pay a flat fee per month and you can go as much as you want. And all
concierge.
Yeah. And I walked in there and, "Well, hi, Danny." And the lady that was there, and I had met him at a local networking thing here in 4 Points, and his office manager was there with him. I walked in, "Hi, Danny," and I was like, "Well, hey, how you doing?" She says, "You have an appointment, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I sure do." And then the lab person gonna draw some blood. She said, "Hi, Danny," and Doc come out and he said, "Hey, Danny," and I'm kind of, well, this is really nice. Found out, I realized later I had my name tag on. It made me feel, you're right, Art, it made me feel great.
Oh, you love when you feel special when they say your name to you.
Yeah. I wear my name
tag. Love
to
hear their names.
Yeah. I told my wife I might start wearing my name tag everywhere. She says, "Why?" I said, "Because people call me by my name and I like it." So anyway, she goes, "You're so vain." But anyway.
Yeah. No, we all love it. We all love it.
Yeah.
This is off track, Danny, but I can't help thinking about your guy that you're crossways with. Like, what is his strength finders? Like, do you have anything in common at all?
Yeah.
He'd have a sit down heart to heart with him.
That's what I've tried taking him to lunch.
Oh, you did?
You know, just said, James, let's have lunch. Let's sit down and work this out. This was, 2 months ago, and always got an excuse. And so usually, I mean, I can normally work a lot of things out. Where I get really crossways, chap, whatever you want to call it, is when somebody's causing other people extra work and they won't take the and then they cast blame. And
well, and the rest of the team is watching what you do.
Oh yeah.
So it may be time to cut him loose, and he's never going to quit. He's going to wait till you escort him to the door. So I know a lot of those guys too, where they've been in my company and they're like, I'm just hanging on until the manager fires me, because then I can get an unemployment check or whatever.
Oh wow. Yeah.
I used to manage large sales forces, and I was in Danny's shoes. There was always that one guy that was like the rock in the shoe, I call it, right?
Yep.
So you try once, then you might try another time, then you try 3 times, and the old adage, 3 times you're out.
Yep.
If I try to reach out to you and try to appease you or accommodate you and figure out how we can work together, how I can help you, and you're still the rock in the shoe, then I'm sorry, then I terminate.
Yeah. Yep.
I've given you 3 times.
Yep. So going through this, and it's really interesting how much he focuses here up front on synergy and the challenge of applying the principles of creative cooperation, and the differences. He says that, but what about the social, mental, and emotional differences? Could these differences not also be sources of creating new, exciting, he calls it forms of life, creating an environment that is truly fulfilling for each person, that nurtures the self-esteem and self-worth of each? Could synergy not create a new script for the next generation? So he's very forward thinking. And I have to kind of break it down. He gets into some details here that we won't get into, but as he said, into the then gradually into interdependence. That wasn't what I was reading. The next generation, and it's literally the next generation of conversations. As you said, others are watching. So it's the next generation of your evolvement of your culture. Austin, my son was at a lunch meeting today with the broker of record for a very large real estate company here in town that we've been training 40 something of their realtors the last few months. And the conversation came around to culture, and he texted me, he said, what is it that you say about culture? And I got it from John Maxwell and a couple other people, but culture eats strategy, vision, purpose, and goals for breakfast. You can have all that lined out and working on it so hard. But what is your culture? And if you have a synergistic culture, it's going to be very creative. So he talks in here about synergistic communication, and that nearly all creative endeavors are somewhat unpredictable. They often seem ambiguous, hit or miss, trial and error. And unless people have a high tolerance for ambiguity and get their security from integrity to principles and inner values, they find it unnerving and unpleasant to be involved in highly creative enterprises.
Oh my God. My boss, he just thanked us all for being able to live with all the ambiguity that we're dealing with, because the hub doesn't work right. The calls don't work right. We are just in this startup chaos. It's just pure chaos. They thought they would have about 200 prescriptions in February, and they had 2,000. So they weren't prepared for the uptake I know it's a good problem to have, but it's not a good problem when you just don't have the staffing, you don't have everybody up and running. And one week the rule is this, and then the next week it changes. But overall, there's a couple on my team of 10 who have a struggle with that. But mostly he hired people, and I don't know what it was about my background that he thought I could deal with ambiguity. I don't know.
Well, he just said it right there. Where was that?
Yep. And that's I heard you.
It's you're secure.
Well, that's true.
You get your security not from structure, certainty, and predictability, but you get your security from integrity, principles, and inner values.
Okay. I was hearing more about the next sentence, but you're right. I don't need the structure.
You roll with the punches.
Yeah.
Totally. And in fact, I find it kind of fun.
Well, that's why you're successful. You don't get stuck in the minutia and worry about everything. You just keep going forward and try to make it work. And that's the way you have to be.
Yeah.
So my boss hired a team of 10 back in December. And I'm like, in hindsight now, I see that's really who he was hiring.
So let me ask this question. So at what point should let me ask it a certain way. At some point, is it expected that ambiguity, I have trouble with that word, that does it go away and structure comes into play?
That's a good question, because it's pharmaceutical. So there's a lot of structure anyway about what you can say, what you can't say. There's a firewall between us and sales, so there's a lot of structure that's there anyway. But I don't think the ambiguity goes away much, because the insurance business is changing all the time. And how things get paid for, whether it's medical benefit or through the pharmacy.
So on your team, it doesn't, but the structure's you wouldn't want to hire somebody. There's a certain process that needs to take place, the same thing that's a good flow to get things done correctly. Yeah. You're just in a different team that's built for the ambiguity. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna skip over the synergy in the classroom and jump over to the synergy in business. He says at first the communication, he's talking about a situation was respectful, careful, and predictable. But as we began to talk about the various alternatives, possibilities, and opportunities ahead, people became very open and authentic and simply started to think out loud. The mission statement agenda gave way to a collective free association, spontaneous piggybacking of ideas. People were generally empathetic as well as courageous, and we moved from mutual respect and understanding to a creative, synergistic communication. So it was a corporation where they were working on the corporate mission statement. Once people have experienced real synergy, they are never quite the same again. They know the possibility of having other such mind-expanding adventures in the future. Often attempts are made to create a particular synergistic experience, but this seldom can be done. However, the essential purpose behind creative work can be recaptured. That's pretty interesting. I didn't have that part underlined, but was drawn to it. I've been into some synergistic. I've had some really good synergistic experiences, and I know that I've tried to recreate them. I'm kind of working on that now. I took a deep breath there. I realized I'm kind of sighing because with some of our team and some of our team that help support us. And he says, like the Far Eastern philosophy, We seek not to imitate the masters, we seek to what they sought, unquote. We seek not to imitate past creative synergistic experiences. Rather, we seek new ones around new and different and sometimes higher purposes. So in the book, he's got a picture of levels of communication. I'm going to put it up here. So there, he's got on this side trust, and down at the bottom, whoops, get over there, cooperation. And when you have low trust and low cooperation, you're in a win-lose. Go back to last week, or 2 weeks ago, the win-win, which you really want. The habit number 4, think win-win. When you've got low trust and low cooperation, now again, he's talking about this synergy of when you have low trust and low cooperation, you're defensive. It's a win-lose or lose-win. But when you have high trust and high cooperation, it's synergistic. It's win-win.
Makes sense.
I found myself drifting that thought of win-win or no deal, that's it. It has to be win-win. And if it's not win-win, it's no deal. There's no compromise. And I've really been working on some of that, as we're forming, synergizing, bringing our team together. Anyway.
That's why I try to do win-win, try to then work out a deal, right?
Yeah.
Some type of deal.
Yeah. Yeah. How far do you have to get in? How soon do you know that, Artie?
That's a good question. You don't know that till the end, usually, So right before you get the term sheet, and then usually you know how that is. Sometimes when you get the term sheet, that's when negotiations then starts.
Yeah.
So it all depends.
Jim Collins talked about in his book, Good to Great. You get the right people on the bus, then you put them in the right seats. I find that with my clients a lot of times that I wonder, is there a connection there? Scott Carley and I have talked about, he has that assessment called Fascinate.
Yeah, I think I've taken that.
They've gotten certified in, and that book, Fascinate, it has been it's about market attraction versus attraction to market. We're all attracted to a certain market, we think. In the mortgage business, I'm always attracted to Westlake and Lakeway because of the big loan amounts. But yet most of the business that I get are up in Cedar Park, Leander, which
Georgetown.
is Georgetown, a lot of FHA loans. And a lot of that has to do with they're tougher to do. There's a lot of first-time home buyers walk them through the process, and so I have found over the years that there's a certain synergy between me and those type of people. In the bigger houses, the one that people that are attracted to me, they're the ones with the real thick tax returns. They got 3 or 4 corporations and all kinds of stuff going on.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah. So yeah, I bet. I know you deal with a lot of that. Valuing the differences is the essence of synergy, he says. The mental, emotional, and psychological differences between people. The key to valuing those differences is to realize that all people see the world not as it is, but as they are. We all have a worldview. We all have a certain lens that we look through.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big problem going on in the world right now because of all of the information that we have, that we get fed from so many sources, that we come to not value other people's, how different we all are. He wrote
I'm with a group I'm in right now. And I'll, so I belong to a ladies organization where you're hereditary from a relative in the Civil War, who fought in the Civil War for the North. Okay. And the ladies who are running it right now, they have run everybody else off. So it's the ladies in Ohio that are doing it. And I'm the senior vice president. The person my age is the president. The past national president on the advisory council is her mother. The secretary is her daughter. The treasurer is her friend. And then her husband is the CPA who does it for free. So, and it just, all of this kind of stuff. And this is a group of people who are not happy unless they're in a fight with somebody.
Oh my goodness.
I hate people like that.
Yeah.
And I'm in this organization because it's started in 1886. My grandmother was
You
in
don't
it.
look that old.
So my investment is more of an emotional investment in this group, or I would just walk away from them like all these other people. I called a
Your grandmother was in one of the in the beginning?
No, not in 1886.
Oh, okay.
No.
Okay. It was founded
Great-great-grandfather.
But my great-great-great-grandfather fought in the Civil War.
Wow.
So if you think about it, if there's even a PBS show about the Great Joining, why did people join all these things? Because there was no Social Security and things, right?
Right.
There was a very small government pension, but they created what was called the Grand Army of the Republic to support everybody. And, they had GAR halls all over America. They were everywhere. And the ladies group I'm in had 10,000 members.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was big.
So he talks here about differences, and think about the differences right there, and what would and how much better it would be that people would value other people's differences. I mean, you might have heard me tell the story about. I mean, if you look at the top of in my actually redoing it right now, but still a couple of my links on my pages, there's a little caption up there that says, "What if you did?" Okay, and years, probably 20 years ago, I said something to my wife about, "Babe, would you like to?" No. And I went, "Let me finish. Would you ever consider?" No. Guys, I wasn't giving up. We went through about a dozen of those reiterations before I finally got her to zip it. And I said, "Would you ever consider going to Russia on a mission trip?" And she goes, "For what?" I mean, no, absolutely not. And I said, "What if you did?" And she said, "But what if I did what? What if you did want to go?" But I don't. So we went through that for a minute. I said, "But if you did want to," well, if I wanted to, I said, "If you wanted to, what would we do?" And when we went through that, and guys, in the end, this went on and off all one afternoon, Saturday or Sunday afternoon. And in the end, she was kind of like, "Okay, that does sound pretty cool, but I'm not going." Okay. And over the years, things that I don't want to do. I remember here about a year ago, I had a long walk plan, getting ready for something, and I was going to go walk quite a few miles. And Kathy says, "Oh, by the way, we're going out to Lakeway this afternoon to see the boys." That's the two grandsons. And I was kind of like, I didn't want to, but I was feeling guilty because I hadn't seen the boys in a couple of 3 weeks. And then I went, okay, what if I did want to do that? And I went through it. By the time we got in the car, I was ready to go. Now, I went walking out there. What if I did want to go out? I'd go. They're going to be going down for a nap here in a couple of hours, and Kathy's going to want to visit. So I'll just go walking the Lakeway. Now, Kathy used that all against me. And one time, that wasn't too long after that first 20 years ago, she said, "Hey, you want to go to the mall with me?" I said, "No." And she says, "What if you did?" And I said, this is before, phones with books. And I said, well, if I did, that's a good point. If I did, I'd probably want to go shopping or something. But at worst, can I take a book and sit on a bench somewhere? And she said, yeah. And, but it's the differences in seeing things. It's why when we read these books, we have to come to the book with an open mind of not disagreeing. That's why I kind of stuttered through when I said something about I really agree. And I went, well, wait a minute, what if I didn't agree? I'd still need to consider what he says. The sign of an educated person that can see another person's consider another person's ideas without having to own them. So anyway, I listened to this chapter Saturday out hiking, and made some notes, and talking it out with you guys has made me realize that I need to go back through and really read it slower. There are some things I didn't pick up on. He says, at one of our development programs, an executive reported a situation where a manufacturer was being sued by a longtime industrial customer for a lack of performance. Both parties felt totally justified by the rightness of their position, and each perceived the other as unethical and completely untrustworthy. As they began to practice habit 5, two things became clear. First, early communication problems resulted in misunderstanding. Second, both were initially acting in good faith, but didn't like the cost and hassle. So anyway, he goes through that, and that they were, the problem rapidly resolved, and the relationship continues to prosper. And that's as they went through these different habits to work this thing out. So just something to, this whole synergy thing, I'm sitting here realizing right now there's a lot of it that I don't have a good enough grip on. He said synergy, and this is in the, I think this is in the, the New Insights by Sean Covey. Getting to synergy doesn't just happen. You have to get there. If you're not sure where to start, you follow the simple 5-step process. Define the problem or opportunity. Number 2, seek first to understand the ideas of others. What is their way? Now, seek to be understood. Number 3, which is your way. Brainstorm, create new options and ideas. And 5, he calls the highway, find the best solution. So define the problem or opportunity. Number 2 is their way. Number 3 is my way. Number 4 is brainstorm. And number 5 is highway. Might be what I practice with.
Your way or the highway?
Yeah. Well, in that you're going through those, what's a win-win?
Right.
And what's a win-win? In our business, we have a whole lot of compliance, and we can't mess with that compliance. We've got, our software has triggers in it that's going to trigger the need for that compliance.
Yeah.
So
is this a Gen X person? at your job?
Hold on a second.
I only ask because,
What years is that?
well, it's older than millennials and younger than boomers. So like in their 40s.
Yeah, I think hold on. That's a great question. Let me look up something right here.
I'm a boomer.
Yeah, Gen Xers have a real problem with boomers. There's just something about it that they kind of butt heads or whatever, whereas millennials would get along great. And it's not to categorize everybody into a box, but there is a trend there. There is sort of a cooperative. Yeah. Well, lucky for you.
Yeah. Maybe I get along with everyone.
Well,
And if I don't, I ignore
well, there's that too.
them.
Yeah, hold on just one second. I'm trying to find something. I actually have a lesson that I've got to complete in a year-long program I'm in that has to do with the different generations.
And the interesting thing about that is they have a different viewpoint. And so as we're talking about trying to get along.
Yes. Gen X is 65 to 1980.
Yep.
Oh, 65 to 80.
Yep.
They're
the boomers until the start of the millennials.
They're independent, hardworking, fast-paced, results-driven, but their weaknesses are being skeptical, cynical, want to work for themselves, dislike and will repeatedly test authority, impatient, lack people skills, mistrust institutions, reject rules, and suspicious of other generations. Very good.
That's your guy.
That's that's
him.
interesting. That's pretty interesting.
So then you got to read how to handle these guys.
What's that?
Then you got to read how to handle them or work with them.
Yeah, and I've got a couple other Gen X's that work for me that we do good. We do real well.
They have to see the value in the proven. Everything's about proving it to them in a sense. So the ones you're getting along with, they see the proof in what your rules are and why things are done a certain way, and they understand why you have to communicate.
You know, I'm thinking about one of them. I'm thinking about one of those guys that I love. He's great. It's just been great. But he regularly will tell us how Austin and I, my son, we're partners in our branch, and we're kind of regional leaders and or managers. And this guy will regularly give us affirmations. And it's interesting, Beth, you brought this up because I have wondered, is he trying to convince us or himself? And so he's given us these informations as self-talk through this. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. Well, guys, next week is we will wrap up this book next week.
Okay.
And we're gonna go through Sharpen the Saw.
Send out now the new book you're gonna do. Give us 2-week notice so we can all buy it.
Yep. I'm going to do that.
Any of these books,
yeah,
but I want to buy that.
I will, and I've got to recompile my list. Typically the way I do these things, I'll send out a big group list to my database. We're going to do this. Typically there's 8, 10, 12. I think this first call we had about 15 people on. Over time it goes away. A 4-week turn time on 3 to 4 week turn times on these is best. People kind of wear out about some books, but
they probably do. Yeah, I'm worn out on this.
But I'm going to do the checklist manifesto.
Oh, okay. Oh, I might like that.
Yeah, I think you will. It's a real good book. It reads really well. Reads pretty fast. It's actually a surgeon that wrote it, Beth.
Oh.
But I'll send that out. The checklist manifesto.
People, do they buy the digital book? Do they buy the soft color book? Do they buy the audio book? What's the thoughts on that?
Okay, hold on a sec. I will always buy the paper.
Okay.
But the digital, but I typically have the digital also, because then I want to go back and look some things up. You can do it on digital, then find it in the paper. So it's just whatever you want to do. And then just set up your digital reader, Kindle, for instance, to read the page by page number. Okay. So you can set it to read location or page number. You need to set it to read a page number. Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, I might like to. Would you buy it off Amazon mostly?
Yes, that's normally what I do.
Because I don't have a Kindle. You know what? I have Barnes and Noble.
Well, okay, you get it Barnes and Nobles, but and if I'm gonna buy a book in paper, I go to Barnes and Nobles. I have a Barnes and Nobles account also.
Yeah.
The author is ATUL. Let me get back there. Give me just a second. First name is ATUL. Last name is GAWANDE. It looks like this here.
Okay.
It's got a little glare on it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lines. Spell the last name again for me, and I'll just type it.
Golf, Alpha, Whiskey, Alpha, Nancy, Delta, Echo, GAWANDE.
Got it. And I know my phonetic alphabet.
Okay.
Good.